bookshop. It's the bookshop. It's the bookshop of Beverly Farms.
Howdy, everybody. It is Sam Fightful, your host of John Updike's Ghost, your favorite little podcast about reading, writing, bookstores, I don't know, soccer games, I guess. We've done that before, and all things awesome. I'm here, as always, with my sister, the co-owner of the Bookshop of Beverly Farms, and all-around top buttoner, Hannah Harlow. How you doing today, Hannah?
So great. It was lovely to see you yesterday at my son's soccer game in Falmouth, Maine.
Yeah, it's really too bad you got smoked quite so badly by those Mainers.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Sorry, Huck. Can't just come into Maine and think you're going to win that soccer game.
But it was nice to have such good company to distract me from that game.
It was. I had never been on the high school campus in Falmouth either, so that made me...
Pretty nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
Big.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a taxpayer in Falmouth. They're getting hosed over there, I guess. I don't know.
I hear the elementary school is pretty new.
Right.
So if they don't have to build anything for a while, then maybe they're pretty set. I mean, we're looking at building a new school in our town, and I think no one is looking forward to taxes going up.
No, and nobody wants to hear us talk about being on the school board because that's miserable and boring. So let's make sure we talk about awesome books. I have two highly enjoyable books to talk about today. I know I've been grumpy about my books lately a little bit. So I'm happy to talk about them on my agenda. I have the new Lydia Millet. Is it Millet?
Yeah,
it's not Lydia Millet or anything, right?
It's Millet.
Okay. I actually have read very little of her stuff at all, but I have her new book of stories, Atavists, which is great. And then I also have a Christmas present, I think, from you that I have yet to read until just now, which is the Silver Snarling Trumpet by none other than Grateful Dead lyricist Robert Hunter. So those are my two. Present. What is on your agenda?
So I have two books that kind of go together, but really don't go together because they're wildly different, but they have something in common. So I'm excited to talk about them. The first is Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams.
Oh,
and the second...
That's not what I was expecting, but yes, I know that book. Yes.
And the second is Mansion Beach by Meg Mitchell Moore.
Aha, which some of our newsletter readers may have seen something about already because we've been talking about Meg's new book.
Yes, and we're doing an event with her. Let's just front load this on June 10th, Tuesday, June 10th at 6 p.m. here in the shop. She's going to come talk about the book.
Normally I would say, I'll come to that, but I will be in Iceland, so I'm not going to come to it.
So pretty sure you won't make it.
No. Well, that's fantastic. Why don't we start with Meg Mitchell Moore's book? Because I want to talk about The Great Gatsby, which I know she riffs on with her book. It's popular now all of a sudden. I think it was the 100th anniversary is one of the reasons it's popular, right?
It is the 100th anniversary.
Right.
And
which,
I don't...
is cool.
So Gatsby is actually what draws my two books, connects my two books together.
Yes.
Careless People is, a reference to Gatsby. It's a reference to Tom and Daisy.
They were such careless people.
They were such careless people. So the Careless People book opens with an epigraph that references Tom and Daisy being called careless. So I was reading these two books at the same time. So I started Mansion Beach, and Meg actually uses the word careless throughout the book. And her novel is a more direct retelling, a modern retelling of The Great Gatsby.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Actually kind of hits note for note, or what?
I mean, I'm not necessarily going to say note for note.
We've got a guy who's new money, who is pining after...
Reversal of genders.
Ah, okay.
And it's set on Block Island, where Meg has set a few of her books now.
Right.
And the new money, self-made person is a woman named Juliana George, who is now becoming a tech giant. So she is, planning the IPO for her company. So she's come into all this money. She comes from, nothing. So you're getting her kind of backstory more than you would get like Gatsby's backstory.
Right. We got very little of his backstory really when it came down to it.
So you get a bunch of, and it, it's multi-perspective. So in that way, it's different too.
So there's no third party Nick.
Well, there's Nicola, who she's kind of the main character telling the story, but you do kind of jump into other perspectives occasionally. So Nicola has just gone through a breakup and is making a big life change. And her cousin, who has married into old money family, he's lending her the guest house for the summer.
Wow.
And the guest house is next door to Juliana.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So she befriends Juliana, becomes like kind of her confidant. And it turns out, Juliana and Nicola's cousin have a history. So this is sort of the love triangle that's starting because her cousin is married. So the boy cousin is the Daisy character.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is his name like Dazel?
It's David, I believe. So it hits the notes without being like a direct, like kind of retelling.
Yeah.
And, I think Meg has a nice light touch in her writing.
Still seems a little bit more ambitious than previous novels. Seems like she's trying to do something a little trickier. Why are we rewriting Gatsby? What do we have to say? How is it in communication with Gatsby?
Well, I think I think it was a really good choice. I think, there's this disparity of wealth. This also made me think about, this other book I read, Careless People, which I'll get into more. But both of these books have these kind of tech giants as this emblem for the corrupted American dream.
Yeah.
And, I think our current environment is sort of ripe for a Gatsby comparison because we have this like disparity of wealth. We have this like, corruption.
The roaring 20s where some people are having a great time, but other people are getting arrested just for trying to have a drink after work. And it's amazing how you don't get arrested when you're rich. Isn't that amazing?
Yes. So Meg's book, there is also a dead body in the book. So you find out at the end, like it's kind of teased throughout the book that like someone is like, going to suffer the consequences or someone's consequences.
Right.
So I found it a really enjoyable read. And, I think Meg has kind of been fit into this like heir apparent to Ellen Hildebrand, like writes these beach reads.
Yeah. Possibly by us.
I think her publisher would like that too.
Yeah. I know.
So it definitely fits that mold of like, it's, set over the course of a summer. It's on the water. It's, it has this like breeziness to it. But I think she does a really good job of making it look easy when there's actually like good, complicated issues being talked about. And like she makes it just like an enjoyable read, but still having something to say.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea that's, substantive and thought-provoking while being entertaining. There's nothing wrong with combining those things. I think the most natural transition here is to Lydia Millet. Lydia Millet.
I feel very confident about this, but the more you
just
say
looks
it,
like Millet.
Sure.
I mean, Maine. We got a little French tradition here. Again, it's the short story collection Atavists, and I would say, in a lot of ways, it operates like a novel. I'm not sure, given how short story collections are kind of hard to sell. I'm not sure why they are very clear that it's stories or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's organized. The reason it's called Atavists is that it's organized. All the stories are ists. So there's tourist, dramatist, fetishist, artist, terrorist, mixologist, gerontologist, right? And they're all members of this neighborhood in, suburban, pretty wealthy mix of, generations. Oh, you got some old people, you got some families, you got some young families, Strikes me like an Andover type of joint.
Okay.
And we follow each character is one of these little ists. And so there's Helen, the artist, who has 2 daughters. Her husband has died. She's a successful artist, has raised her 2 kids. One of them just graduated. One of them is 25. And they have their little plans. And it's very... It's only cutting, I guess, and satirical if I think you see America's current capitalist wasteland in a negative light. In some ways, it's just, I think, actually fairly realistic. Like, these are characters that I recognize. The daughters in conversations, I think, are very realistic. I don't think they're being made fun of. I don't necessarily think they're on 11. I think these are the crazy ass conversations that get had in suburban households. And so it's this daughter of this relatively wealthy artist wants to take a gap year, but she only wants to do volunteerism that makes her look cool, and she can wear pretty outfits, and maybe I'll be an influencer actually, and maybe I'll, and it's just like, God, it's just all completely and totally bankrupt. And at one point, the mother, Helen, is, regrets the fact that she's never had time to basically educate her daughter in morality. It's like, that's the one thing she seems to have missed in all this education she's bought for her. But it's kind of almost too late to do that because her sister is already this high-powered, actually agent, which I am dabbling in myself now, but agent for like actors. And her mother's like, why don't you ever try to pitch these actors into movies with progressive stories? And the daughter's like, why would I do that? Those stories are all terrible and make no money, and my actors would look like failures. No, I don't want to do that. So it's all, it's very aware of what's going on, but I think there's part of it, I think the insidious part of it is how just actual normal it is. And there's not a lot of scare tactics or whatever. Or there's the terrorist one is like, there's a gay couple, 2 kind of older men with a dog type of deal, and someone keeps leaving like notes with gay slurs and weird like hand-drawn pictures of them being gay together, and one of them is like, this is hilarious, oh my God, who is this weirdo? And the other guy's like, we need to report this to the cops, this guy can firebomb our house. And she's a great writer. She's her dial, there's a little bit of a sheen of everybody's too smart kind of thing going on. Every character has a little witticism about them, or even the Republicans are kind of annoying in a witty way. But it's a super enjoyable literary, very John Updike-y in a lot of ways. Just kind of these are the crazy things that are being talked about by what amounts to middle class. They're all rich, but with the middle class, falling into poverty, people who people who pay full rate to send their kids to college, or people who, drive an Audi that they buy. They are wealthy, but in today's America, there's, it shouldn't be that, back in the day, you could send your kid to Harvard if you owned a grocery store. Now it's, you got to be a billionaire to pay full rate. I don't know how anybody does it.
Yeah. But, so Lydia Millet, she has been around for a while. Her breakout book was The Children's Bible, which was a National Book Award finalist.
Right. We have that in the house. Kristen read it, I think.
Yeah. I didn't read that one. I read her last novel that came out, which was called Dinosaurs.
Yeah, I remember you read that. Yeah.
Can't really remember why it was called Dinosaurs. But that was also like a suburban story of like a guy who walks across the country and buys a house, and the neighbor's house is made out of glass.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing is like, it's absurdist, I guess, a little bit. It's definitely
just a tiny bit of absurdist.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Like, it's a little sheen, it doesn't knock you over the head is what I like about it.
Yeah.
It's a little cartoony, but not too cartoony. Or, like Richard Russo, kind of like a little bit Richard Russo-y, like, but from the woman perspective more, but, kind of all the, there's like a self-awareness and, I realize that this is all kind of ridiculous.
Well, like in Dinosaurs, the main character guy was like super nice, which just felt like a little novel, right? Like in like all these literary books, people are like, they're
cynical
cynics.
and satirical. Yeah.
Right. And it was like, this guy was just nice. Anyway.
No,
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, well, I have a segue, but
segue. Do it.
You know who's not nice?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg.
He's a dickhead. Yes, 100%. Good segue. But that's a different level of wealth too, right? Like the careless people that are careless in Facebook are like 100 millionaires that made huge tons of money. And I think they are truly divorced from reality in a way that like Lydia Millet's characters are not.
Oh, no, for sure. And so this is Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams. And she definitely talks about that in the book of like, this was a guy, like she's, having these interactions with Mark Zuckerberg and just being like, this is a guy who has so much money, like he can't spend it in a lifetime. He'll never want for anything again. And he's just like lost all of his purpose. And he's just like trying, creating Facebook was like the event of his life. And he did it when he was like 18.
Yeah.
So like, nothing's ever going to top that. And he keeps trying to like come up with more big ideas and they're all failures.
Yeah. They're brutal failures that nobody wants.
Yeah, right.
What's crazy is that I think what it comes down to is Zuckerberg has some of the worst taste of any human being. And so like the things that he thinks are cool are just so not cool in a way that just poisons everything he tries to do. Like they put out, they put out those commercials for the multiverse and you're like, who would want to do that? Like it's like, oh, hey, we invented a amusement park where you can come and douse yourself in condiments and roll around in ants. It's only $100 to join. Come on in, and it's like, what? I don't even understand.
I don't understand. About. Yeah. Anyway, just to back up the book. So this woman, she worked for Facebook for 7 years, I think from like, 2011 to 2018 or so.
Which was huge.
Yeah. So she talked her way into a job. She's a New Zealander. And she sort of saw like the power Facebook could have in other countries and in this country of like actually uniting people, actually like helping people like as like a democratic force. And
just like Super Bloom, everybody thinks it's going to be a democratic force. It just never is.
And so she was saying to Facebook, and so she talked her way into a job of like, you need to be thinking about your international policy. Like what are you going to do about these other countries? Like as Facebook comes into these countries,
laws and don't just let you rape and pillage their people. Yeah.
Right. So they were sort of blowing her off, but she somehow convinced them to hire her. And for the first few years, she was just trying to get them to care about other countries. She was like setting up these meetings with like presidents of other countries and just trying to get Mark to care about it. And he was just like, I really don't want to do this. Like, I don't see the point. So
they all want this like magical global government that just lets them do whatever they want.
And so by the end of the book, that is just what they're doing. They're just like, we're just going to do whatever they want. They're like they're actively breaking the laws.
Yeah, they do that all the time in Europe. I watched them do it.
Into China, especially, they're doing some really crappy things, like dangerous things in order to have a presence in China. Just capitulating to this communist government, just being, whatever you want, we will give it to you. Because it's billions
people?
Of users.
Sure. You want all the data aggregated? You want us to red flag people? Yes. No problem.
Totally. That is all in the book.
Yeah, I know all the worst things you can think of. Like that's what's so crazy about Facebook. And once I realized like the Cambridge Analytica stuff was all true, and they just didn't care, and it's all easily documented. Like there's no conspiracy or whatever. It's all true. Like just one said, the real trick of Facebook is that you can't think of the things that they're doing. They've invented new bad things to do.
Yes.
Like, you don't know that they're bad. Then you're like, wait, they're doing that? Like, oh my God, that's terrible.
No, it's shocking.
Yeah.
And, it's all about making money, right? They were just like, for them, it's growth at any cost, because that means more advertising dollars, more money.
Growth is good. More users is good.
Right.
Anything that limits growth is bad. Anything that limits their ability to monetize data is bad. Just like a priori. It's the same. It's like the contemporary version of Manifest Destiny. Like, they believe they have some sort of divine right to just do whatever they want.
Yeah. So it's pretty gross. I mean, I think one of the things that makes...
What about the book as a book, though? Like, is it actually well organized, entertaining, etc.? I have no idea.
I think one of the things that helps it, and this is probably unintentional, is that the whole time you're contemplating her own complicity. Right? Like, you're like, you stayed there for 7 years. Even in the very beginning, like her first week at work, she knows they're bad people. And it's like, you stayed.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little time where she did not know just how bad they were. By the end of the book, she's saying, I thought I could do more good from the inside than the outside. Like, I thought I could change things. I thought I could help people. What I think is the most damning, which I'm sorry, I'm giving like spoiler alert, she gets fired from like, she never even has.
Hey, I got fired from the IAPP.
I know.
Sometimes you get fired because your moral injury is so large that you just start like you're subconsciously trying to get fired. Like, you just can't contain yourself.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I got fired. I got fired sticking up for, JD Vance being a piece of shit. One of the things I'm most proud about.
A long time ago, just how bad that dude was.
That dude was fucking bad dude from day one, the minute I met him. It's really too bad.
So that works in her favor, I think, in terms of like, adding just like another level to the book.
Right.
For you to think about. She does try to work in, like, she has this theme, like, she opens the book by telling a story, which is actually really interesting as you're reading it. She gets attacked by a shark as a kid.
Okay.
So, like, she has, scars on her torso because a shark bit her. And, like, her family was just really blasé about it. They were like, you're fine. Like, they didn't take her to the hospital. She had all sorts of internal damage. So finally, she's like, I think I'm literally dying. She's like, exaggerating maybe, but like, not much. She's like crawling across the floor being like, I think I'm dying. And they're like, oh, maybe we should take you to the hospital.
Oh my God.
So she does, like, she almost dies, right? So that kind of informs the rest of her life, right? Like, I almost died. I need to go, like, make something of my life. I need to do something worthwhile. Like,
okay.
I think it energizes her. And then she kind of keeps coming back to it at different points in the book of, like, how the shark bite has,
it's like apocryphal in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's not like, right. I was reading it and my husband read it first and was like, why is it taking you so long to read this book? It's not like you need to read every word. It's not like great literature. Like, it's really, it's just for the information you're getting. But I spent time with it because...
Do you believe her?
I do believe her. Yeah, actually, I found her very credible.
Yeah.
And I spent time with it because I was like, I really wanted to understand, like, some of these issues, which I just felt like I couldn't skim over them. But I think someone who spent more time with them, could...
Are we selling a lot of these?
Faster. We've sold a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think, actually...
maybe it takes this book... None of this should be news to anybody, but...
It actually shouldn't be news. But what's fascinating to me about this book, having worked in publishing and having worked on books that, you don't want leaked, and you kind of have to work on the book and start to promote it without really like letting it out to the public that this book exists.
Yeah.
So this book, we got an email from our sales rep, maybe 10 days, but I would have to look it up. Very, very short period of time before the book actually published.
Oh.
And it was it was maybe 2 weeks. hey, like, that's a long time to keep a book a secret. That's really hard to do. I've never seen a book come out with that little notice.
And so that would indicate that there's some sort of slow build is probably going to happen too, because, they did almost no advanced marketing.
They did none.
Well, the advanced marketing was Facebook trying to get it not published,
Right. And so she's not allowed to promote it. Like Facebook, has started legal action against her or whatever. So she's not allowed to promote it, but.
Oh, then I guess we need to promote it more. All right.
But there's no injunction against Macmillan publishing it. Right. Like, they can still publish it. That's no problem. But she's not actually allowed to talk about it. So she testified in front of Congress. Yeah, which was sort of the last time she kind of talked about the book.
Yeah.
So,
the stuff that she said in Congress, the stuff that Zuckerberg has said in Congress is horrifying, and just doesn't even make a dent. It's crazy.
Well, I think so. My husband finished this book and immediately deleted his Instagram account, and he's off the platform. But how we still use it. I
still use it all the time, especially Instagram. I can't get off it. It's where business is done.
It's where business happens, right? Like, something else needs to be introduced that's going to take its place that people pay attention to. Because
if we had a functioning federal government, there's a really good argument that there should be some kind of public commons that's maintained by the federal government and is like a NPR of the internet, like an NPR of social media. And the fact that there isn't just shows how we just don't even try.
No.
All right. Well, I do. So the good transition there is to the appeal of the Silver Snarling Trumpet.
Yes. Tell us more.
Which is, has this obvious Grateful Dead reference cover on it. It is by Robert Hunter, who is the lyricist of the Grateful Dead, basically Jerry Garcia's best friend, or one of the best friends as they grew up. Not grew up, but were 18, 19, 20-year-olds in San Francisco, in the Bay Area in general. And it is pre-Grateful Dead. Their Grateful Dead are a glimmer in Jerry's eye. He's playing in bluegrass bands or just playing his guitar, doing, singer-songwriter wasn't even a thing back then. That's how far he was, late 50s, really, early 60s. We haven't gotten into Vietnam yet or any of that. And they are the book. I thought the book was, so it's pitched as the long lost manuscript of Robert Hunter. And so I thought, for some reason, and the way the cover is, I thought it was like a book of fantasy. Like, I had this Alice in Wonderland kind of idea in my head. I
think they're just trying to emulate the album covers or whatever. Like, it was trippy.
I was thinking his lyrics are often very fantastical. I thought it was going to, for some reason I had in my head that it was like a fantasy, and I was like, I'm not interested in reading it all that much until I had
fiction, right?
It is fiction, but I don't really think it is fiction. It reads like On the Road, right? It's basically beat fiction. They were emulating the beats at the time. They loved On the Road. It's mentioned in the book. And it's just Robert Hunter talking about what he and his friends did all day and making it kind of sound cool, right? But the difference, so they all live together in a flop house, one bedroom with basically no facilities, sleeping on top of each other, and going to the coffee shop to have five of them share a cup of coffee on a regular basis. That's what they do all day long. They walk back and forth from their apartment. They write 16-act plays together. They have ridiculous 2-hour-long silly conversations where every sentence is alliterative. They play music, talk to their friends, try to make trouble, go score some weed, do a bunch of acid, see what happens. And it's somehow, maybe it's just, nostalgia of the pre-internet days, but it's so much more attractive than the way that kids seem to live their lives now. I would much rather my kid was hanging around with their friends, nursing a cup of coffee and writing a 16-act play than all singly in their bedrooms staring at TikTok videos, which is what they do. They don't, kids just don't gather in this way.
Right. Except like to play Fortnite together, each in their own rooms.
Yeah, maybe they play. Yeah, but they're not in each other's physical spaces. Right. That's one of the things that's really striking, is just how like in each other's space they are. They're, they touch each other's bodies. They, all pile in together. They, are in close quarters. They, it's so much more physical and like meat space than anything we're doing. And it just gives you this like really cool insight into how a social movement can be created. Like Jerry was like this weirdo kind of perv dude who just loved playing the guitar all day and making stupid jokes. And then, he's basically the head of a global movement that, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people are into. So it's I really enjoyed it. And it's also it's got a foreword by John Mayer, who plays Jerry's parts in the Dead Company. And it's got an afterword by Bridget Meyer, who was this woman who was just like their friend in San Francisco, like not famous or anything, just hung around.
Why is it long lost? Did someone like just discover it in a suitcase?
No, Hunter. It's been sitting around. I think nobody wanted to publish it. Like, there's an introduction from like 1992 when Robert Hunter basically, I think, probably pitched it to people. And I think it just nobody published it. And now it's been published because the Dead are still popular inexplicably. And
I feel like there are a bunch of Dead books coming out. Like there were some others that came out last fall. I feel like I'm just ordered another one for this fall. Like,
it's kind of over now. Yeah, like, it's like we really have seen the end of Dead and Company. Like they're still going to do some stuff, but with Phil dying, especially, like there's isn't really any Dead left.
So I guess people are starting to grapple with its history.
Exactly. And it's a massive social movement for good, really. It's peace, kindness, love, let's all do drugs and have sex and listen to great music.
Right.
It's amazing that anybody would ever be against it, but it is a counterculture.
Right. I'm like, who's doing that now? Who's advocating for that now?
Nobody wants to have sex or do drugs now, which is terrible.
I know.
So boring. Right. We're meant to just go to all these music festivals and not touch each other and be sober.
Like, okay, well, you have to go to Vegas. You have to go to Coachella. It's just like, can you come to me?
Yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to go anywhere. No, so I think if you're a music fan, it's a great addition to, it really functions like a Jerry Garcia biography in some ways,
Cool. Right. Early biography.
Early, like first 5 years or something, of his fame.
I wonder if it's coming out in paperback.
I have no idea. It would be a good paperback book. I don't know.
Really should have been one from the start, but oh well.
Yeah, but I can see, like, it's a beautiful package, and people like me, a lot of people just buy this just to, like, complete their little Grateful Dead collection and put it on the shelf and never read it, probably, but...
I'm not seeing a paperback edition listed, so I'm not sure the hardcover sold well enough to make it happen. I doubt it sold
any at all. So let's try to get it sold. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to get people to understand that Facebook sucks because she can't promote her book. We will try to get Robert Hunter a paperback.
Yes.
I'm sure he needs the money. And the Lydia Millet's good. And
the Meg Mitchell Moore is good.
June 10, you can come talk with Meg Mitchell Moore about Great Gatsby, the greatest novel ever written.
We had 4 winners today.
4 winners? What kind of winners?
I just mean each book we talked about was a winner.
Oh, was there a contest?
No.
They're all winners. The 100% great books today on John Updike's Ghost, which almost never happens. And I think the sound quality we're back to the best possible sound quality. I'm sorry about
as
forays
on
in the wilderness.
Quote unquote better microphones.
Yes, I have, but everything's great. Also,
everything's wonderful.
Spotify ruins shit when you upload this. That's so much better before I listen on Spotify. It sucks.
Well, we'll be hanging out this weekend at the lake.
Oh, yeah.
Lake season starts this weekend for Memorial Day.
It's going to be cold, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, that is that for this week. We will see you on June 10th for our event with Meg Mitchell Moore. If we don't see you before then, I'll be in Iceland. Have a great time, everyone. Bye.